What is good, everybody? What's going on? My name is Ahmed Dents. Welcome to Ahmed's Voice. The podcast is back. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you're watching on YouTube. If tell anybody if they missed any part of this will be replayed on YouTube and on Facebook, and I'll also convert it to audio so you can catch it as the official Ahmed's Voice podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, everywhere else you can find your good quality podcast as. So please follow Ahmed's Voice on Instagram, on Twitter. I make it real easy. Ahmed's Voice, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Ahmed's Voice podcast again on Spotify, Apple, Google, all that good stuff. Make sure you give me a follow, subscribe. And like I said, the podcast is back, and I am very excited to have a return guest with me tonight. Dr. LaWana Richmond is in the house. What is up, LaWana?
Afro Con. That's what's up.
That is what's up. Everybody, I'm really glad to have LaWana back in the house with me again right before Afro Con. We're going to talk about that, get into some Afrofuturism talk, maybe some Marvel talk, some good old, we just gonna really geek it up tonight and check it out and see what's going on. Now, LaWana, the last time I talked to you when you were on the podcast, I think we might have been just entering the COVID era. We might have just have stepped through the threshold and stepped into the door. And you were running for what school district?
For San Diego Unified.
That's right. And we was just talking about how crazy COVID was going to be and what the effect on kids were and all that. And now here we are about a year later. And I was like, we were just talking about my kids just went to school for the first time yesterday. So it's just a whole new world of taking the kids to school with the mask and the protocols and the new variants jumping around. Let's just take a minute and start there, if you don't mind, just to get your ideas of where we are right now as far as, kids going back to elementary school, high school, back on the college campuses. Just give me some of your thoughts as an educator about, what you see or what your concerns are as we get back into this school year now with things opening back up.
So, I will say there are some college campuses that have done a really good job of putting protocols in place, and they've been doing in-person learning for over a year without major incident. There are some elementary schools that have been successful as well. So I don't think it's a matter of the age of the children. It's really about what protocols you put in place and how they're enforced. The hard part when children are younger is that they like to touch everything.
Right.
And they are constantly touching their face and putting their hands in their mouth. And, you can tell them to sit there and mask, but, kids are going to be kids.
Right.
But at the same time, the absence of that social interaction has an emotional impact on children that is, it's having an emotional impact on adults. Right now we're doing like return to learn at UCSD with people, the adults are coming back into the office, and a lot of people are dealing with social anxiety disorders, and there's a lot. And so if it's hard on adults, I can only imagine what it's like for kids who don't even understand what was going on in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, my kids are just happy. It's their first time being in school, period. So they're just happy to be around other kids and, to start this thing off. But I can feel, and dropping them off in the morning, I can feel like the kind of pensiveness from the other parents who, they're returning with their kids and going through it and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just the time we live in, these are the times we're in, and that's what's up. And we got to deal with it and move forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We have to also think about, what is our reality? Because we've got the Delta variant that's very active right now. There's a Lambda variant that's looming or pending. And, either, we do something behaviorally or socially or scientifically to change that trajectory, or we're going to have to figure out how can we create some level of normalcy under these outrageous conditions.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what that would look like? Because for me, I'm looking at what's going on, and it doesn't even, for me at this point, as I'm an amateur social scientist, always have been since I was a kid, just looking at how things are going and just looking at the attitudes of people, and I'm looking like at the extremities on either side of the issue. It's like I literally was at the board of county supervisors meeting last week. I was there for an arts issue, never got to it because the COVID issue took 5 to 5.5 hours, and it was one of the wild. I've been in some wild rooms. I've been in some wild circumstances, and that was just intellectually, spiritually, that was just one of the craziest, wild. In fact, I got to a point where I couldn't leave. I was just like, I just need to sit here and take all this in. It was one of the wildest rooms I had ever been in, with just the extremities of things being said. I was just like, I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna behaviorally or socially do. I don't know. Just at the extremities of where people are right now.
So, Ahmed, part of the problem is before the pandemic, we were already dealing with the extreme circumstances.
Right.
People were already polarized. And then you add a pandemic. And, the word pandemic is misleading because it's a really simple word. It sounds relatively benign. But we have to look at history. And throughout history, every time there has been a major pandemic, there's been a shift socially, politically, and economically.
Right.
And so right now, all this chaos that we're experiencing is actually normal for the circumstances within which we find ourselves. And right. The question is, how do we look through all the noise to identify where we're going and what's going to happen next? This is a time when it's good to look to futurists who are used to doing environmental scanning and get some ideas of just what the possibilities are. Because people think futurism is about predicting the future, but it's not necessarily about predicting it so much as it is about understanding what could potentially happen based on the available data.
Right. Yeah. It's just such a wild time. And yeah, I mean, some days I and it's hard. I can't get away from it, right? Because, sometimes you can get away from things. Like even this, you can get away from it. You can tune it out, right? But like we were talking about a couple minutes ago, in the midst of trying to get theater open back in, this has become 50% of the conversation during my workday. This is just what it is. It's just, not even just dealing with what the CDC says or what the state says, but dealing with what these different actors unions say and what the different guidelines are and what's going to change and how long do we have. And well, this, we could put out this thing right now, but that might flip in 2 weeks. And how's this going to be when we open up? And, just dealing with what is going to be the regulations of how to get people checked into the theater. How do we communicate this? What's going on? And then, yeah, it's just wild. It's just, it's just wild times. But like I said, I guess we'll figure it out. We'll get through it.
So I will say that what you're describing are circumstances that speak directly to why organizational development is so important. And I'm like a really a strong advocate. I believe in organizational development because that's my day job. Right. But one of the things that research shows is like the greatest strength for any business or organization is agility.
Right.
And so part of what builds agility into organizational cultures and structures is communication. What are your existing communication systems and how do you strengthen them so that you can communicate change or challenges in real time so that everybody gets the memo and people get on the same page and you're able to quickly shift based on new data.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, and I think, yeah, that's the thing. Like you said.
And, there's nothing more constant at this point than change. And a lot of this is really unpredictable. And, at SDG at the power plant, there are people who, when the smokestacks, if they see any like colored smoke, like if it's white or gray or anything, they think it's polluting and they start calling and complaining.
Right.
And so they put chemicals into the mix in order to make sure there's no visible smoke. And they had to do that for the general public. The reality, the science says that the plant is running at its very cleanest when you can see smoke. And so I bring that up to say that people are not always going to listen to the science. So no matter what you do based on CDC, county, state, all of that, people are still going to be people.
Right.
And if you want them to behave a certain way or you want them to accept something, you have to factor in their beliefs and their challenges.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It takes it just takes a very nuanced mind to really comprehend what's happening right now, and to really have to, I don't want to say the word back off is not the right word. It's to take like an eagle's eye view, to kind of, you have to kind of hover above it all to really take in all the moving parts and be able to effectively communicate. And some people you can't even communicate with about it. It just doesn't even.
Yeah. I mean, in some rare instances, the best communication is the communication that didn't happen. Usually that's not the case, but sometimes, too much communication is also damaging. But I want to talk about Afro Con.
Let's talk about that. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And we spent this time, yes, the situation is bleak. Fortunately, I have a lot of support in making sure that we do this in a way that is clean and sustainable and safe, and as safe as you can be. We're looking at keeping the density low. But meanwhile, we've got like some great comic book creators that are coming to hang out. We've got some people that are coming in through our virtual application and interface in order to be with us from wherever they are in the world, to talk about things like NFTs and cryptocurrency. We'll be having sessions on food and the food supply chain, on how to get into careers in comics, about diversity in comics, and ableism, and the isms. And we'll also have a coding workshop for kids, and we'll have 3 cosplay contests with cash prizes. We're giving people, the winning cosplayer gets $350 each day. And it's just going to be fun. We'll have a DJ. We've got a 360 photo booth, and there'll be some surprises. And I really hope that people understand the importance of an event like this, particularly doing it in Southeast San Diego, is making sure that everybody's family and kids understands that, yes, comic books are fun and you can enjoy them, but it's also a world of possibilities. As someone who works in the arts, I'm sure there were points where people said, arts is fun, but you need to get a real job. So, don't quit your day job. And the reality is there are careers and opportunities in the arts, and we want to make sure that we create an awareness, and we encourage our artists, because art is like the center of every culture. And whether we acknowledge it or not, we are influenced heavily by the art that we create and consume.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, and you're right. You do hear that. I have heard that a lot, that. Then it's nationwide, a thing that people hear the arts and they just think like, oh, that's those fancy people going to watch plays and ballet, and they don't understand. No, there are so many talented people, and there are electricians, there is tech, there is carpenters, there is everything else in every other industry in every part of the world that's involved with the arts. Every other thing you can think of is right here in the arts as well.
And what was the line from the movie Hollywood Shuffle?
Wait, which one? And I just watched Hollywood Shuffle about 3 weeks ago.
They kept saying it throughout the movie every time somebody talked about what kind of work he was doing.
Oh, there's always work at the post office.
Bingo.
Always work at the post office.
And the irony of that is the post office is actually going through challenges right now.
Right. Right. That's right. You're so right. Every time somebody was about to get a gig, there's always work at the post office.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, I try to do is encourage the dreamers to dream, because, we dealt with a lot of really serious social justice issues in the last 16 months while we were also dealing with the pandemic. And, there were many things that boiled over. There were some things that, had a better outcome than many of us may have expected. But the reality is, if we truly want to see systemic change, we've got to start by creating a vision of what it looks like when it's better.
Mm.
And that's where
Right.
the dreamers come in. And as long as we build our model of the future based on what we see around us right now, we're not going to get very far from where we are.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're so right about that. Tell me about the process you've been going through to get Afro Con going and off the ground. I know it's been a challenge to try to plan something through the fog that we've been coming through.
So, I have a confession. It's actually been a blessed experience in the sense that, this is the 4th year that I've been putting this together. And each year I'm working, it seems like, with a different crew of people. But this year, people who were on the sidelines saying that's nice are now coming to the table and offering support.
Mm.
And people that I didn't even know before are now, excited and ready to help. I'll have more volunteers this year than ever before, which will be good for crowd control and keeping
Right.
everybody organized and stuff. I have some sponsors that came to the table to help, so I wasn't digging in my pocket so much.
Right.
And it's actually what I'm really excited for is this year we're doing what we're doing within the constraints of social distancing and masks and fear and uncertainty. I feel like after we pull this off within these conditions and constraints, when we do it the next time, it's going to be so much better because I am trusting the universe to put us in a better place in the next 12 months.
Right.
And a lot of that is going to be about what we do as people.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. What are you looking to forward most at AfroCon? What's the thing you're looking forward most to either take part of or watch others take part of?
All right, so there's one, I'm really looking forward to the cosplay contest because there are a lot of people who have never cosplayed before who are willing to jump in the pool, and I'm excited to see what they come up with. And I'm excited about the judges I have. I have judges from the fashion industry as well as the blurred community. For people who don't know, blurred is Black nerd. And it's going to be exciting. And then, the people that helped me organize it this year, we have all invited people from our networks. And it's going to be interesting to see all these networks collide.
And
the other part is I was recently appointed San Diego coordinator for the Black Speculative Arts Movement, which is a global network of writers, artists, and futurists. And I'm excited about the opening session where we'll be talking about the Black Speculative Arts Movement, Afrofuturism, and just the possibilities and sharing some of the work that we've been doing over the last 6 months. Which I'm really excited about in terms of world building and creating scenarios to help identify things for us to look forward to or to build on in terms of opportunities for the future.
Right. Can you, for people watching or will watch this or listen to this in the future, can you kind of give me a definition of Afrofuturism? Because there's so many Black people who don't know. Don't understand or don't understand the concept of what the word even means.
So the thing about Afrofuturism is it has so many different definitions. The term first came about in 1994. Mark Derry, a British journalist, was curating a collection, like an anthology of essays about cyberculture. It was called Cyberculture Flame Wars. And this British journalist, who, I must add, is a white male, decided that his essay would be Black to the Future. And he talked about the preponderance of African Americans in science fiction and posited that, why would African Americans not embrace science fiction when there's so much about the Middle Passage in terms of alien abduction and invasion and colonization that, you know, link directly to some of the tropes in science fiction. And he said, for lack of a better word, he would call speculative fiction, arts, and music that center the Black experience in the future and into with technology. He would call that Afrofuturism. And so that was the term that became popular. And why Tasha Womack wrote a book called Afrofuturism, where she kind of goes into geek culture and talks about cosplay and Star Trek and Octavia Butler and, you know, and just some of the experiences and thoughts and ideas that come from Afrofuturism. And then Ronaldo Anderson, who is actually going to be our closing keynote, wrote a book called Afrofuturism 2.0, which is kind of a more scholarly look, and it was a collection of essays about Afrofuturism. I say all that to say that all of those definitions are really good, but Alondra Nelson, who was recently appointed to the science to be like was a deputy science, I don't want to mess up her title, but a big deal in science for the federal government. She was appointed by Biden to his cabinet when he was elected. She talked more not only about, you know, the aesthetic in terms of the art and the music and the movies and all that stuff, but she also talked about ideas of liberation and ideas of just how to move forward.
Right.
And for me, that's probably between all of them. I think I take a little bit of all of it, but I wanted to close my definition of Afrofuturism by saying that was a term that was coined in 1994, but the term that I really think is more fitting is much older, and it comes from the West African Akan culture, and it's the concept of Sankofa, which is represented by a bird with its feet planted in the ground, which represents the present, its head facing back towards its tail to represent the past, and an egg in its beak to represent the future. And the concept is about it's never too late to go back and fix it. And it's really about the connection between the past, the present, and the future. And with that, you know, how do we look forward, look backwards, make the connection to the present so that we take actions that are responsible and accountable and mindful of how we are impacting the future based on what we know about the past.
Right. And thank you for that, because I was going to ask you, that was going to be my follow-up question, is like, even though that might have been the, you know, where the popular term was coined from, I was going to ask you about, because there's always something that precedes, right? Even though there's something that blows it out the water and becomes popular, there's always that which precedes what is popular. And so that's what I was going to ask you, is like, were there examples of, you know, Black people who were trying to publish these ideas or push these ideas forward before that popular, you know, definition came about, or that popularism of it came about?
So are you familiar with the Dogon culture?
Yes.
And the Sirius star and how they
Yes.
were able to, okay, so the Dogon people have, as part of their cosmology, a story of basically alien beings coming to Earth to teach them about technology and science and astronomy. And they believe in the power of the word. I think that sometimes people look at cultures that are different and decide that they're primitive. But, you know, the thing about the word primitive in and of itself, it's deceiving because it starts with the word prime. And first can also be better than what comes later.
Right.
It's kind of like when you have an original document. Whoa, sorry. I keep knocking over my tripod. When you have an original document and you make Xerox copies.
Yes.
And then you make a copy of the copy, and then you make a copy of that copy. Eventually, you're just going to have a blank piece of paper.
Right. Right.
Because you lose something every time you make a copy.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you look at primitive cultures, in many ways, they have everything already. and through the process of colonization and neo-colonization and neoliberalism and all these different things, many things are lost.
Right. What there's been so much stuff that's come out in the last couple of years. There's so much new content via all these different streaming services and just independent artists. What have you been watching or have you seen over the last year that's really caught your eye as far as in those terms, or kind of in those terms of looking at, like, I think the last time we talked, was Lovecraft Country out yet?
No, it wasn't out yet.
It wasn't out yet, right?
So you just hit it on the head. So there's two series that really, really, really like rock my world. One was Watchmen with Regina King. And by the way, her name, Regina King, is Queen King. And I always tell people that because she is amazing and people don't give her credit that
they don't give her enough credit. Not in the least.
Right. She does so much and she does it all so well. And the way that she bodied that character in Watchmen. Yeah. So that's one. And then Lovecraft Country, because it was a combination of science fiction and fantasy and historical recreation and alternative history, and it dealt with everything from gender to, it dealt a little bit with orientation, it dealt with magic, it dealt with, so far nothing has topped Lovecraft Country, and I'm so sad that they didn't decide to do the second season. The hard part is every time you find a good series, it's so good, and then it gets, and I think it's, you remember when the Sci-Fi Network was actually science fiction?
Yeah, I remember way back when, sometime in the long lost past, when it was actually science fiction. Yeah.
When they used to spell it with I's instead of Y's.
Right.
And all I can say is why.
Right, but, exactly.
But but the good thing is you've got Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus and Paramount and YouTube, and like I watched there's a lot of like there's a lot of fan fiction being created, and some of it is really well done. And even the ones that are not really well done, they make you think, and they're interesting. And you think about, like, maybe if they didn't have so much time where people were doing these lingering looks, the pacing would be better. Right. So you come up with good notes. I plan to, after Afro Con is over, I plan to work with a creative partner to do some script writing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you thinking about doing something? Are you just going with the blank canvas right now? Are you thinking about something for stage? Is it something for film? Like, we're
thinking film. And in terms of a blank canvas, the concept is already there. It's just we're gonna sit down and write it.
Right.
But I'm excited about that, and I got appointed San Diego coordinator for the Black Speculative Arts movement, so I'm excited about what I'll be able to create within that, because at minimum we should be able to create a nice table art book with poetry and art and short stories and for sure. There's a lot. And then I'm excited about the fact that San Diego is on its way to becoming a cultural arts center. It hasn't tried to, it hasn't wanted to, but in spite of itself, there are so many artists in every demographic group creating work that is undeniable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was talking about the Board of Supervisors meeting last week. The purpose of me going was because I was going to go and speak on, they had an agenda item that was going to be about expanding the funding to wider parts of the county, into a more and to more diverse organizations and more diverse artists. Like that was the whole point of what I was going to speak on. And because there was a study that came out, I don't know how many months back, that was showing the concentration of arts funding from the county, which it makes sense that so much of it is, centered in the downtown area. It makes sense because of all the big playhouses, Balboa Park and all that. But there's still some work to do with the diversity about how the funds are dispersed. And it's also diversity. It's also, from my point of view, there's a lot to do also with, education for a lot of these artists and how they apply for those funds and how they get in those circles and to understand. But that goes to what you're saying is that, and I think it was kind of magnified by the pandemic and everybody being forced to do some things online. There was such a more blending of the community and so much more of a magnification of all that diversity of art and so many different artists that had to come together online and view. Now you're forced to go online. You can't just go to this physical place you were used to going to. Now you are actually online exploring all these people and artists that you didn't know were probably like 4 blocks away from you, or just a couple of, just the neighborhood over. And you didn't know that there was this little theater doing this, or this little artist collective over here. And you didn't know this person was creating these type of sculptures or this type of visual art. You know what I mean? And it's just like you're saying, it seems like right now San Diego has that, like it's bubbling up, that there's so much diversity in art that everybody's starting to come together and actually show that to each other.
So, and this may be overly ambitious and overly optimistic, but I believe that the more we embrace the arts and the artists, the closer we will come to actually building community and a better society.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. And I see that on the micro level and on the macro level.
Because at the end of the day, when you look back at time, right? Like, what's the only thing left that everybody what is the only thing left?
It's
that
the art.
Anthropologists and the art. It's the art. That's what tells the story. That's why we know what was going on. That's the thing that's left.
Right. So, I want to do everything I can to embrace artists. And my mom recently reminded me that I've always been an artist and been into art, but I had got into, doing practical things.
Yeah.
One of the things the pandemic did is it created space and time for me to be more artistic and more creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a book, I think it's called Recreation and Leisure, but one of the things it talks about is the value of enforced leisure. And so basically enforced leisure is when you don't have a choice, you have to be still. Whether it's because you're in prison or you're confined to your bed because you're sick or you're in quarantine or whatever is happening, when you don't have anything, you can't do any of the things that you normally do, you become more creative and beautiful things come out of it if you let it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. That's one of the main things that's like I always tell people about the prison population on any level, whether it's the county, whether it's the state, whether it's the feds, on any level, the amount of art that comes out, the amount of art that comes out of those institutions, when the art is in those people. And then once you get in that situation to where now everything else is taken away, there's nothing else and everything around you is just concrete and opaque colors, and and everything's echoing off the walls. And once you get to turn inside, and how many men turn to, whether it's pencil, ink, whether it's leather, whether it's wood, whether it's whatever, it gets to a point where you get sad even when you find it in yourself. I turned to writing. Like I went back to writing. I hadn't written since I was a kid. We're not younger, but like you said, because I started following more practical things. Got involved in sports and this and that, and got to be the guy on campus and do this. And the more you do that, the less the pen writes. You know what I mean? And so it was just even in there watching all the beautiful things that were being created by these men that were just locked up, but seeing like, man, if we could have let that, if that could have been flourished before you got in here, who knows what would have happened.
And how many men had the artist in them squelched because it was considered a feminine behavior?
Yeah, it wasn't. What are you doing? Like me, one of the things I used to do one of my favorite things that I used to do all the time, I used to draw these big like cityscapes, cities in the clouds. I used to draw big cities, futuristic cities in the clouds, and I used to draw like I had a thing for unicorns. I don't know why. I was like Napoleon. I was like Napoleon Dynamite, but I had this thing about drawing unicorns in
I
these
love
cloud
unicorns, so yeah.
cities.
Well, you know, it's better than some things that young men get obsessed with drawing. So I think that's awesome, and I think that you know, I think that we who can see have a responsibility to show.
Right.
Yeah, and you can tell people things, but you can show them better than you can tell them.
Right.
And that's really what Afro Con is about, because I can tell people about Afrofuturism. I can tell them about great comic books and great art. But when I show them, it's a whole different thing.
Right. Right.
You know, there are people who there are people who have come and gotten commissions to do artwork. There are artists who have connected and collaborated and created things. You know, for some people, it's just healing. I have a friend who's a mental health provider who loves to cosplay, and having a space where you can go and walk around as your favorite character or in your favorite role and be accepted and not be, you know, ostracized is a beautiful thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, exactly.
I mean, imagine if people could like cosplay at work. I mean, like if that's what they wanted to do, like,
right.
You know, like I could go in my Wonder Woman dress and my tiara and nobody would like raise an eyebrow.
And it'd be all good, right?
Right.
Like, you know.
You know, I've seen some people more comfortable in their own skin when they're cosplaying than when they're just dressed in regular clothes.
Right. Yeah.
Because then they're in character.
And so just real quick, because I just want to remind people while we're talking about it, I've thrown up on here on the bottom the website for the Afrofuturismlounge.com.
Yes.
Go check out that website and get more information about AfroCon. And this is coming up in just next weekend, right?
September 4th and 5th, Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend, y'all. September 4th and 5th. Go to Afrofuturismlounge.com. Check it out. I know we're going to talk about some Marvel stuff in a minute, but I want to talk to you about a little bit about what if you have any on your mind, what comic books, like, because I know for me, I'm looking to expand because I grew up reading Marvel, like I'm a Marvel nut idiot, you know, and I grew up reading it and this, that, but I'm trying to get my mind out in the other comics. There's so many more independent comic labels coming out, especially Black Center Comics. Can you give me a little rundown of what I should be checking out?
So I'm going to recommend Bitterroot, which I happen to love. And it's a David Walker collaboration. I would recommend Power Nights because Keithan is local and he's been added and dedicated and committed to putting out a quality project. Let's see, Thingamajig does some good stuff. Greg Anderson Elise. I mean, what I would recommend to you, actually, there's a book. It's called Black Comics with an X instead of a CS.
Right.
And it's like an encyclopedia of independent Black artists.
Black Comics with the X.
Yeah. And then like I read a comic recently, not too recently, it's been a couple of years, but it stuck with me. It was called Contact. And basically, people had to walk around in like these suits and they couldn't touch each other because there was something that happened where if you make skin to skin contact,
right,
there's like some kind of high. So like the new drug was Contact. And conceptually, what was interesting for me is just, you know, what does that mean? What are the repercussions? What is the impact on society? And then like they would catch people who would sneak and touch each other and they would lock them up and punish them for touching. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty freaky. I read a lot just because I like to see, the different directions people are going in and look at different art styles. Um, Afua Richardson drew, why can't I think of her name? Lovecraft Country, Orinthia Blue.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the Orinthia Blue comic in Lovecraft Country was actually drawn by Afua Richardson.
Mm.
And she has her own comics that she creates. She's an artist. She's a singer. She's a brilliant young woman who I encourage people to just check her out. Cause I co-host a show called the Afronauts, and we'll be actually airing a live episode from
Oh, I think I lost your audio. Are you muted?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay, I got you.
Okay, so Afua Richardson. So I co-host a show called the Afronauts, and Afua Richardson was one of our guests. And before she was our guest, I wasn't really aware of her. I was aware of her work, but I didn't know who she was. And when I realized who she was, I was just so excited. I remember she sold a limited edition print of a rendering of Orinthia Blue. And I tried really hard to get one before they were all gone, but it was so good and so in demand that it didn't last very long. So yeah, that would be, and I geek out over and John Jennings, of course, David F. Walker. It's an interesting space because no matter how many books you read, there are always more books. Was it Greg Anderson Elise does It's Nana the Were Spider?
Mm-hmm.
So it taps into the Anansi tales,
Right,
but puts a modern twist / historical fiction twist on it. So that's interesting. Yeah, it's there's a lot, and I'm sorry if I'm babbling, but I get excited by just how broad it is because no matter what your interest is, there's a comic book that is centered around what you're interested in.
Yeah. I would advise people if they're looking to kind of get back to their roots or see what's going on. Like I know Instagram is a great spot just for following all these different Black artists.
Yeah, like Black Sands.
Yeah, Black Sands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing, people can follow me on Instagram, actually follow my Afrofuturism Lounge account. I'm constantly posting artists, art, books, and cosplayers, just to inspire, inform, make people aware. And I do it really because I enjoy it. And when I find something that's interesting, I share it to my stories or add it somehow.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna pull up real quick. I was pulling up on the screen so people can see your the Afrofuturism Lounge Instagram account. For those who are Instagrammers, make sure you head on over here, check it out, and then you get on Instagram, you follow somebody, and then it gives you a drop down of accounts. You'll start seeing a lot of good accounts that you can follow and check out. I want to ask you, I want to go back real quick to Lovecraft Country real quick.
Okay, I'm always down to go back to Lovecraft Country.
Do you have any thoughts or ideas, or have you heard or read anything as to exactly why HBO it was so successful. It got rave reviews from everybody. It was compelling. It was one of the best things HBO has done. I don't know how long. Do you have any idea why they would not want to renew that for season 2? Outside the obvious place I'll go, but is there any reason that you know of why they would not want to do season 2?
No. No, I could speculate, but I don't think that, I don't think that's going to help.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is, part of Lovecraft Country, because look at it was a period piece, right?
Right.
So it was really expensive to make.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor.
Yeah.
The other part is the story departed significantly from the book.
Hmm.
And you know how people are about canon.
Yeah. 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 Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I yeah, I was watching an episode of In Class with Karen Hunter and Dr. Carr, and he was actually talking about Lovecraft Country and the original book. And yeah, it's just interesting. It was just such a great show. I feel like, and it was funny because, as many people were watching Lovecraft Country and were so in love with it. And what I noticed, I would tell, some of my white colleagues who were talking about how much they loved it and it was so great. And I was like, yeah, but I'm like, you know what? I'm like, there's a lot of it you missed if you don't know Black culture. Like I was like trying to explain to them, like, as much as they loved it, I'm like, there were just a lot of winks and nods that you didn't get at all if you weren't, privy to, the real intricacies of Black culture and Black history. Even the simple thing is like some of the some of the famous photos that were turned into, cinematic shots of like, the Gordon Parks colored only with the woman and her daughter outside the theater, like how that, famous
it was
photo
super iconic.
Yeah, like there was so many things they missed if they weren't aware of what was going on in the history and of the culture. And I just went back to it because it was just such a great show, such great performances. And yeah, it's just I hope I heard that Apple might want to do something with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Apple could probably afford it, so that's helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Apple could definitely afford it, so that would definitely be helpful. I want to get back to Afro Con in a minute, but let's talk about. I want to talk to you about some. I want to talk to you about Marvel for a minute, and I know we talked a minute ago. And I know you haven't been able to see
What If
yet.
Yeah, so no spoilers, please.
No spoilers, so we're not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But you did get to see WandaVision and Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki.
Yes.
Okay. Give me your thoughts on Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
There are pieces I loved and pieces I hated. I think that they gave it the college try. I think they tried to be socially relevant. I understand it was challenging with the storyline that they had, and then we messed around and had a pandemic.
That messed things. They had to scrap a lot.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to season 2. What I don't like is I don't feel like they're giving Anthony Mackie the props he deserves.
Yeah, I feel. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I feel like, he is Captain America now.
Right.
First, they could have done a better job on the suit.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Had him looking a little bit more fly. The other part of that is, we had to wait pretty much till the end of the series for him to actually own it.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anybody who didn't watch it. Sorry. I mean, but at this point, if you haven't seen it,
we passed the time of expiration.
We like 2 or 3 series in. WandaVision was dope.
Yeah, WandaVision was dope. Yeah.
I mean, it was so like, the genre, the era switching, the genre switching, the Easter eggs. I was there for it.
Yeah. WandaVision was definitely dope. I was all about that. I was feeling that all the way around. I loved how they bought the Scarlet Witch to full for. I loved how they did that. How they just flipped that story. Even with and throwing Agatha Harkness in here to do her thing and how she was messing with folks. I thought her character was super dope. They threw me off a little bit with the Quicksilver thing. I don't know where they was quite.
So here's what's happening with the acquisition of the Fox. We're about to see the mutant and X-Men merge into the MCU.
Yeah.
Because it's always been about who owned the rights to what.
Right.
So that was a teaser to let us know that is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I got that. I just felt, I don't know. I guess I felt, what's the word? I felt what they were doing. I didn't really get how they wrapped it up with him in that series though. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it was all sarcasm and jokes. I mean, his character was just there specifically to make us laugh and make us ask questions.
Right. But I mean, overall, the show was great. Like you said, I love how they ended it, even with the pointing towards, you know, the scrolls and linking that to the secret invasion and Nick Fury being up on the, you know, supposedly was the Swords space station and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I was about it. What did you think of Loki?
I enjoyed it. I really, because by the time Loki came out, I was really starting to get heavy into organizing Afro Con. So I'll say I wasn't as attentive to it as I could have been. I kind of followed the story. I thought it was interesting. I'm looking forward to season 2, but I know I didn't give it its due attention.
Okay. Yeah. I think, I had one of my colleagues was like, you know, he had watched it behind me. And he told me he had finished it. He's like, yeah, I finally finished Loki. I said, what'd you think about it? He's like, I didn't like it as much as WandaVision, and it was this, that. And but he's more of a DC universe guy. Like he's more of a DC guy. And so I asked him, I said, well, were you watching it just to watch it, or were you watching it for like the setup? Because, you know, I'm watching it, but I'm watching it for the setup of the whole Marvel universe as it unfolds. You know what I mean? I think that kind of sometimes that skews how people watch it. Like if you're just watching it for this one show, that's great. But for me, I'm kind of watching it for the whole setup of the Marvel universe. So like you said, we're looking for those Easter eggs and how this ties into that and this, that going forward and where that was. So I really dug how they set up, you know, along with WandaVision, how they and with Kang and the time and how they set up the multiverse, and now and then, you know, even looking at the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, just, you know, just how they're really just pushing full in on this multiverse, but they have what it seems like they've set up all these different incidences where it's like, okay, well, which one of these really is where your mind might go like, well, which one of these is really spurring, you know, the multiverse? Because if you look at them by themselves, they're all like seem like these unique events that are kicking it off themselves. But looking at how they roll it off, you know, we're going to see how they all splinter and intertwine with each other, you know, and then, like you said, with the pandemic, it's knocked everything out of order of how it was supposed to be presented to the public as well.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is they're trying to stay relevant. They've had a really good run, and the question is, will they be able to create additional content that's compelling and attracts new audiences?
Right. Yeah, that's going to be the challenge moving forward, especially with such an ambitious schedule like they have with all the releases that they have coming forward. You know, the one I'm really looking forward to that I read, and I don't know how many other people read it, but the one I'm really looking forward to is Moon Knight. I was a Moon Knight fanatic. And Moon Knight is a top guy. Now I'm forgetting the main character's name, but he was possessed by this ancient Egyptian god, the spirit of the ancient Egyptian god. But he also has mental issues. So the whole thing through the comic book is him dealing with being this character, but then he's having these flashbacks, and you're having to decide how much of it is his mental, how much of it is of his, how much of it is his of is it of his schizophrenia, and is he really, is he really this Bruce Wayne type character, or is he this other guy, and how much of it is he, and and I'm just really looking forward to it, because it was one of the comic books I really read when I was younger, and I'm really looking forward to, and I can't remember. I don't think it's a movie. I think it's going to be a Disney Plus. I think it's going to be a Disney Plus series.
So I love conflicted characters.
Yeah.
I love the anti-hero because it's closer to reality.
Right.
I'm one of those weirdos who believes that we're all heroes. We just have different superpowers. And it's about identifying what your superpower is, how you can use it for good, and understanding what your vulnerability is, because that's why most superheroes are written with at least one clear vulnerability.
Right. Because it's about dealing with that and overcoming that and finding the gifts in that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the journey. I mean, when you write, usually it's about the hero's journey, and, what does the hero do?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it all unfold and how it all just intertwines. I'm ready for it. I'm really hyped up now after seeing that. After seeing the No Way Home, the No Way Home trailer. Like I was already amped. I'm super amped. And like I said, I'll hold it there because I don't want to get no spoilers with What If. What If is great. I like what they're doing with the animation and everything, and you'll dig it when you see it. And like you said, everything's provocative, right? So there are things that are going to make you think and go like, huh, really? What? But I think it's all good. I think Marvel knows, I think to the extent that they can, they know what they're doing. They know where they want to go. And now, like you said, with the acquisition of Fox and all the X-Men characters and all that, they can do what they want now. There's no limitations now. They can do what they want to do.
Yeah, they can use the word mutant.
Yeah, now they can. You're right. Not the enhanced.
Right.
Yeah, they can actually use the word mutant now, which is spectacular.
And like, what happens when you do a mashup and you add the mutants? I mean, you add X-Men to the universe.
Woo.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, especially when you're able to add the X-Men, and then you're able to bring in, your movie, and as they're, of course, the big main thing they're moving towards is the Fantastic Four, and just how do all these things how do they package all these things up? How do they tie the bow on all these things to make them, become interactive? Yeah. It's going to be really, really, and like you said, right, we've seen them laying the seeds for it in all the Disney Plus shows, pretty much laying the foundation and the seeds to go ahead and blow that open. So it's going to be really exciting to see. I want you to be careful while you're out there driving, and I don't want to keep you too long.
Well, I was at the charging station and it got dark, and I don't like to stay out there in the dark by myself.
No, I hear you. No, I feel you. I got you. I completely understand that. And like I said, I want you to be safe. I want you to give me, again, just a little. I got the link down here, and I'll have it I'll have all the links that you share with me, and I'll have the links in the podcast description on YouTube and on the podcast pages that people can go click on. Give me one little last rundown that you want to tell everybody who's watching right now and might be watching within the next week about Afro Con and what you want them to really know about it and where they should go.
So what I want them to know is it's meant to be fun. It's, it's a great example of edutainment. We want people to come have a good time, enjoy each other, fellowship, learn some things, get exposed to some comics, and understand that on one level, it is a Black Comic-Con with all the things that go with that. But on a whole nother level, if what you're looking for is something a little bit deeper, it's also a gathering of Black futurists and people who are interested in having conversations about what we can do to make our future better.
There you go. There you go. Y'all heard
Oh,
it.
and then also I have to tell you, I keep forgetting to plug the after party. The after party where you get to act like an adult and not be constrained by being family friendly will be at the Phantom Lounge Saturday night and Friday night. Saturday night we'll have a cosplay contest where you can do some grown and sexy stuff if you want, and Sunday will just be the wind down. And yeah, and both nights are cosplay friendly.
Okay, cool. Y'all heard that. And again, I'll throw all the links up here. You see it scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now to get that's the one place you could definitely go is www.afrofuturismlounge.com, and also follow Afrofuturism Lounge on Instagram. Check out what LaWana has going on over there. And
Yeah,
y'all check it out.
and I still need volunteers if anybody wants to come help out. The
There y'all
more
go.
volunteers I have, the shorter the shifts will be. And there's a button on the website that you can click to sign up to volunteer. And it goes into detail about like what it is you would be willing to help with.
Okay. Cool. LaWana, let's do this again after Afrocon. After
Yeah.
you've had some time to come down off of that. But let's come back and let's talk about it and talk to me about how it went, everything that went on, and then maybe in the next conversation we can get more into some so I really do want to talk to you. I really want to get to, I really do. I know last time we talked about the election and the education more, and this time we're talking about Afrocon, but I really do want to pick your brain about quantum mechanics. It's
All right,
really
yeah.
it's something that really interests me. It takes up there's a quote by Miyamoto Musashi that says, if you know the way broadly, you'll see it in all things. And quantum mechanics and quantum theory, quantum computing, those things have become for me a really way they've become the thing for me that's identifiable for me to kind of recognize how things happen in this life. And so it's kind of become a guiding post for me to understand choices, ways of thought, directions to go, kind of backing off and looking at things at a higher level. And so I just want to pick your brain about that and talk to you about quantum mechanics, kind of have a conversation about that. And for other people who might be having those same thoughts, who are, just now getting into it and understanding what it is, as it's going to, as this is going to take over our lives more and more. You know what I mean? This is, as people come to understand it, this is, where we're at the threshold with quantum computing and things like that. So next time, let's get into a conversation about that.
All right, cool.
All right, cool. Everybody go to the Afrofuturismlounge.com. Get all your information about AfroCon, which is coming up next weekend, y'all, the 3rd and the 4th of September. And check out
4th and 5th.
4th, I'm sorry, 4th and 5th. You know what? There's so many things going on that weekend. I'm sorry, 4th and 5th.
And there's a virtual option. It's hybrid, so people who don't want to leave the house can still participate.
Okay, cool. Good to know, y'all. September 4th and 5th, Afrocon. Head over to Afrofuturismlounge.com. Give LaWana a follow at Afrofuturism Lounge on Instagram. And LaWana, I'll talk to you soon. Be safe out there on the streets.
I will. All right.
And thanks for swinging through. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace out. Everybody, thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Ahmed Dents. Welcome. This has been the Ahmed's Voice podcast. Make sure you give me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Ahmed's Voice. Visit my website at ahmedsvoice.com. If you did miss any part of this video, it will be, again, played on my YouTube channel at Ahmed's Voice or Ahmed Dents, on my Facebook page at Ahmed's Voice. And I'll have it there for you, good and ready to go. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you later. Be safe. Have a good one. Talk to y'all soon.